Hello and welcome to YOY, the podcast where we talk about things with an element of mystery, confusion or misrepresentation. I'm Matt Hartless, I'm a musician and journalist.
And I'm AJ Hill, comedian and idiot.
It sounded like you'd forgotten your name for a second.
I did for a second, to be honest with you, Matt.
This week we're going to be talking about the Wisbech Arsonist, but before we get into that, there we go. That's the first mistake from me as well. Before we get into that,
is this some like Norfolkian? Is that how you say it? Norfolkian?
No. It's just my stammer, really. I sort of characterize it as like verbal dyslexia. Like I just say the syllables in the wrong order.
Yes.
I do that quite a lot. But so before we get into that, anyway, we'll just do the housekeeping. So if you like what you're hearing, you can support us on buymeacoffee.com/why. Fuck it hell. Whoa. I'll have another go at that one. buymeacoffee.com/Y0YMCR. And you can find us on social media, Y0Y podcast. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, and hopefully TikTok soon. To be honest, I should just get TikTok rather than thinking about getting it.
Yes.
And then we can actually do something on it. But yeah, we'll be on TikTok by the time this goes out, for sure. How are you doing anyway, AJ?
Yeah, well, today's podcast is sponsored by Hangover. I went to my local inconvenience store and I am currently drinking Brewdog Clockwork Tangerine. The reason I'm saying this, Matt, is because maybe one day they'll send us free beer if we plug them. So unofficial sponsors for today is Brewdog Clockwork Tangerine, which is basically like adult Fanta, and it helps get rid of the hangover. So yeah.
Fair enough. Well, I'm drinking Iron Brew Extra at the moment, and coffee.
And if anybody, as the corporate whores that we are, if anybody wants to send us any products, please do.
Yeah, if anyone's listening from north of the border, I love your orange-coloured fizzy drink. Please send me some, but don't send me any with sugar in it because I have diabetes, so I won't be able to drink it. If you're feeling generous, please do that. I've got some Thatcher's Gold ciders for later on, but I've found that I stammer enough when I'm sober, so I've found that if I want to record myself talking, I don't do it until after I've finished. No, I don't drink until after I've finished doing that, because it just gets even worse, and I make even less sense than I usually do. So,
Matthew, what are we talking about this week?
We are talking about the Wisbech Arsonist. So, Wisbech is a town in England. It's where I grew up. I pointed this out when we did the bonus episode, which I still haven't edited yet, about hometowns. I do not have a Wisbech accent. My accent is kind of more Midlandsy, Yorkshire, Manchester.
Can you do an impression of a Wisbech accent?
I can, yeah. So Wisbech accent's a bit more like that. It sounds a bit West Country, but it's more monotonous. So it's like a bit of a kind of farmery kind of accent like that, but it's not as much of a lilting kind of thing as you get in the West Country. It's more kind of like it's a bit deeper and a bit more monotonous. So it sounds like that. But so it's when you start going west from Wisbech, you get to Peterborough and then Leicester, and people start sounding a bit more like I do.
So imagine
that's where my accent comes from.
So we're imagining a sort of pirate computer. Then is that basically?
yeah, I suppose. Yeah, that's not an incorrect evaluation of what the accent sounds like. I mean, the thing with Wisbech is that it has quite a lot of different accents because there's a lot of different people that live and move there. So, yeah, that accent that I just did, that's for the kind of the local people who grew up in the area. Mm-hmm. But it's also, Wisbech has quite an older population because in that area of the country, it's quite rural and houses are quite cheap, so a lot of people kind of retire to that area because you've got like the Norfolk Broads and the North Norfolk coast that are quite close. And then also on top of that, because it's a huge agricultural area, you get a lot of people.
Why do old people like to die by the sea? I never get that.
I don't know.
It seems to be a preferential thing that old people do. They migrate to the sea.
Yeah, well, maybe they're a fan of
Tolkien. Yeah.
No, I wasn't going to say Tolkien, but I've forgotten the name of the person who wrote The Old Man and the Sea. Who was that? It was. I keep wanting to say
Ernest
Hemingway.
Hemingway?
Yeah. Not Steinbeck. Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men.
And the Grapes of Wrath.
Grapes of Wrath, yeah. And other titles as well. But yeah, we're not talking about that. We are talking about Wisbech. So yeah, like I was saying, that there's quite a lot of immigration from overseas to that general area because of the agricultural businesses in the area. There's a lot of what we would, and I don't like the term, but what we would call unskilled labour.
Picking grapes.
Yeah. Fruit picking or factory work for processing factories for fruit and veg and livestock and this, that, and the other. So yeah, there's quite a lot of work in that area, and that will. The reason I mention that is that is important. That will come up later on.
Okay.
So given a sort of brief introduction to Wisbech, but I'll be a bit more detailed now, just to give you an idea of where it is in the country, because you probably haven't heard of it. It is quite a small town. Its population is about 34,000 people at the moment.
Not very many.
No, it's not very many. It's situated in East Anglia, the East Midlands, really. It's between King's Lynn and Peterborough.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's where Wisbech is. It's in the east, kind of in the middle of England.
With no beach.
With no beach. No beach. So the beach part of Wisbech, it probably means beck, as in B-E-C-K, as in a kind of river, stream kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So Wisbech, I think when I was looking this up, I think there used to be a river called the River Wissey that flowed through what is now Wisbech, and that might have been why it was named. So it was the Wissey Beck.
So what happened to Wissey?
I don't know. It got diverted by. Well, I mean, one of the things that probably happened to it, we can talk about. Well, now actually. So it was in the 18th century. The surrounding marshes of Wisbech, because it's in the fens, so it's a very flat, low-lying, below sea level area.
Okay.
And so this was all marshes and basically underwater, apart from like a few small places like Wisbech that were above the marshes. Mm-hmm. But then in the 18th century, Dutch architects came over and drained a lot of the land, which was actually met with quite a lot of opposition at the time from the so-called Fen Tigers, who were like a local resistance group.
The Fen Tigers?
The Fen Tigers, that's what they were called, yeah. But the thing is that actually the draining of all that land left all this agricultural land, which is now used in that area, and it made Wisbech with its big river, the River Nene, which is a tidal, reasonably deep river that runs through the centre of the town.
Okay.
So it made Wisbech quite an important industrial port that was just inland. So think of it like similar to what the Thames estuary is used for. But yeah, because of all of the arable land around Wisbech, it had a boom in the 18th century, and so a lot of opulent buildings were built along the north brink of the river, but on the south brink as well, but mostly on the north brink of the river, which are still standing today, and they're all listed buildings.
Okay.
And so it's a very iconic. They do look. It's a Georgian waterfront, but there is a very kind of Dutch sort of sense of architecture to it as well. It does, like if you've ever been to Holland, there are mills dotted around Wisbech as well, like you would get in Holland. So it's quite. I don't want to say iconic because it's not like a particularly well known. It's not massively recognisable, but it is certainly unique in terms of a town in England with its architecture. It does look different.
It has a Dutch feel to it.
Yeah, a sort of slightly Dutch feel to it, and and the buildings look very kind of old-fashioned and Georgian, and you don't see many buildings like that anymore because they've been knocked down, repurposed, etc. Especially since the Second World War, a lot of these places were bombed.
Are clogs a thing?
I mean, not that I've noticed, but there are quite a lot of Dutch families, so you do get a lot of Dutch surnames from people who live in the area.
Interesting.
I went to school with quite a few people who had Dutch surnames. Anyway, going back a bit in my notes.
Okay.
So just to give you more of an idea of where Wisbech is, so it's in northeast Cambridgeshire.
Right.
So that it borders Norfolk to the east and Lincolnshire to the north.
Mm-hmm.
So it is pretty much right in the. If you've got to draw a line through like north and south in England, Wisbech would probably be on that line.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the town might have been settled as early back as around 40 AD.
When it was a peat bog, basically.
Yeah, well, when the surrounding area was peat bogs, and like Wisbech. I mean, the town of Wisbech has existed before the marshes were drained. It was a place that you could get to, but because it was, I guess, kind of raised up, the ground was firmer there.
Okay.
So you could build a settlement there, but yeah, it was the surrounding what is now farmland, which was marshland, that couldn't be used before. But then when that was drained, Wisbech ended up growing in size because it suddenly became quite an important location because of its river that boats could go up and down, and the resources that could then be made in the town or just outside the town.
It's fertile. It's a fertile area.
Yeah, but when we were talking about the Fertile Crescent in the Göbekli Tepe episode, this is kind of like a very mini version of that.
The fertile crescent of the United Kingdom.
But yeah, anyway, an interesting thing that I didn't know this about Wisbech, but the Celtic Iceni tribe were kind of the first to make a settlement in the area of Wisbech. You would know them as they are the tribe that had the Queen Boudica, who was the one who had the chariots with blades on the wheels and was just mowing down Romans
and painting themselves blue.
Yes, yeah. So there we go. So she was from Wisbech.
Wow.
Or maybe she founded Wisbech, but yeah, that's pretty cool.
And the Smurfs took on the Roman Empire and won.
Yeah.
So what you're saying?
I mean, to a point. Wasn't Boudica caught and executed in the end? That's what I thought.
Well, everybody gets executed in the end.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah.
Covered the history of the area.
Yeah. We've covered the history. I just want to talk about the Peckovers.
The what now?
The Peckovers. So they are they were a family of Quakers who settled in the area around the time that it was getting this economic boom.
Okay.
And they were philanthropists. And they brought libraries and education, so they were kind of like I don't know what a sort of similar example would be, but they were a very popular family in the area because they brought a lot of sort of wealth and things with them that transformed the town from simply being a port to being
the movers and the shakers of Wisbech.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So Peckover House, which was their sort of mansion.
It's called Peckover House.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was a house that they built, and I guess like anyone in the aristocracy in England, they were quite fond of themselves.
I'm just a big child, so to me it just sounds like pegging. That's
oh right, okay.
It's a rude thing that people do, folks. Don't look it up online.
So anyway, they had a mansion built on the north brink of Wisbech.
Okay.
And it's still there now, and it's a National Trust attraction. And interestingly, the National Trust was founded by someone called Octavia Hill, who was actually born in Wisbech, and she was born in a house on the South Brink, which is also appropriately a National Trust attraction. Yeah, there you go. AJ's ancestor, Octavia Hill, was born in Wisbech and created the National Trust, which now owns Peckover House and her birthplace, and obviously loads of other properties around the country. So that's Wisbech, its heritage and its important old buildings. There are a lot of important old listed buildings in Wisbech. Why is that important, you might ask? Well, if you know that you're listening to an episode about an arsonist, you might have already put two and two together at this point.
Somebody's been burning them down.
Yeah. So, in the spring of 2010, there was quite a scare in the town, and I still lived there. That was a year before I moved to Manchester. So I was 17 at the time, in the spring of 2010, and there was a spate of deliberately started fires in the area. So the first one, and I mean, there might have been other attempted ones before, but this was the first kind of main one where, it just gutted a building and people noticed. So this was on the 27th of March, 2010, a building called Constantine House, which is formerly the Belfast Linen Company, who would have been one of the many businesses that traded and worked in the area of Wisbech.
Belfast living.
I presume the company was from Belfast, and they got whatever it is you use to make linen. They got that from the fields around Wisbech.
So basically, their geography was off by.
No. I'm sure their geography was fine. I'm sure they realised they weren't still in Belfast. I think the company was probably based in Belfast, and they were selling linen in Belfast, but they needed to get the stuff to make the linen from somewhere, and they got it from Wisbech.
Okay.
Is what I assume.
Farmland and crops. So was it big for growing cotton?
I mean, I don't know. I thought cotton was kind of something that you'd get more in southern climates, isn't it? Because that's like the deep south of America with all the cotton plantations. Yeah. So you'd assume it would have to be quite hot. But
I mean, probably.
But then again, like Wisbech is quite like the Fens area. It's the driest part of the UK. It is because it's significantly warmer there than it is in Manchester, even though it's not that much further south. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't exactly have a different climate, but in a way, it kind of does. So yeah, maybe the conditions there are just about right for cotton.
Because we live in the grey north, people. We live in the grey north.
This side of Pennines, don't get any sunshine. But yeah, anyway, so this building was situated on the river's south brink, between the town bridge and the marketplace.
How many rivers do you have in Wisbech?
Just the one.
Well, I thought I think you've named 3 already, haven't you?
Oh no, sorry. The south brink belonging to the River Nene. Not the river South Brink.
That's getting very confused.
Yeah, the river's possessive S.
Okay.
South Brink. So it's the River Nene, the one river.
Okay.
The Wissy, I don't. That might be
The Wissy
fantasy.
disappeared.
The Wissy disappeared. It wisappeared, if you will. So I've no idea about that. It's just the Nene that is in Wisbech now.
Okay.
Yes. Anyway, so yeah, town bridge and marketplace. It's sort of between those two, so it's like right in the centre of the town. If you're going through Wisbech, you would see that building as you go through. Now, the building had been abandoned for some time and was apparently popular with squatters for various reasons, whether that was people trying to live there or have parties there or sell drugs there, I don't know.
Or stop a linen company.
Well, yeah, maybe that's it. If it's just loads of Northern Irish people, where the fuck are we? This doesn't look like... It hasn't rained for 3 days. This is so confusing. Anyway, yeah, so that's that was an awful Northern Irish accent. I'm very sorry to people of Belfast. Yeah. So on the 20th of April, so nearly a month later, there's the Westwood Junior School in March. Now,
where they all learn hip hop.
Tim Westwood. Yeah.
This is off the chain.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yes. That's just a wonderful idea. That's just a wonderful image of it. Just Tim Westwood, just not having any idea what to do. But yeah. Like in one of my first weeks at university, he came and like did a talk and like an open mic kind of concert in my student union.
He did an open mic concert. I don't. How does that work?
I don't know, because I'm saying loads of different words because I can't really remember what it was. But I think it was like sort of like a gig. But I think it was kind of like an open mic in that he was getting other people up to perform. But I don't think it was a free for all.
Okay.
As you would expect from an open mic, I think it was a bit more selective.
Can you rap, dog? Get up here and let's rap together.
Yeah. It wasn't quite as chilled out as that.
So basically, this school is basically if your father's a minister or some sort of bishop and you want to get into rap, then you go to Westwood.
maybe
in West Beach.
I don't know. I didn't go to this school. It's in the neighbouring town of March.
Well, you're not a rapper, so I'm not surprised.
No. Quite, yeah. Now this, and I will say at this point, like these fires, the reason I'm mentioning them all in sequence is not necessarily to say, oh, these are all linked. It's just that these were all major fires that happened within a few weeks of each other, which is kind of weird. But yeah, they might not have all been done by the same person or be even connected at all, because March is ways away from Wisbech. But it was, yeah, just weird that it was another major fire around the same time. So it's a junior school, or it might have been a primary school actually. The sports sheds were gutted by fire, and the kitchens were nearly set alight by the time fire crews got there to put the fire out.
I mean, at least that's consistent. So you burn down the sports sheds so people can't exercise, but then you burn down the kitchen. So it's like, well, at least you're not going to get fat guys. Like, you know, I've taken away your sports facilities, but also you can't hoon pizza at lunchtime. So, you know. Fair
enough. Yeah. No, that's a good thing. I mean, I think there is a bit more of an obesity problem in Wisbech than in other places.
I'm not surprised though. The sports facilities have been burnt to the ground.
If that's what our arsonists target round there. Then on a week later, the 27th of April, there is a house on the North Brink. It's not a specific or named building. It was just a residential property that was unoccupied at the time. That was gutted. And then the most famous...
It was really sad, was it?
yeah.
All these buildings are very sad.
It was really upset. It was gutted by fire, I should say. And then 2 days after that, this was the most famous one.
Okay.
So the Phoenix Hotel, which was also on the North Brink, and was like one of the pardon me. It's one of the major sort of like building facades on the Georgian front on
So
the
what happened
North
to the
Brink.
Phoenix Hotel?
As with everything else, it was set on fire.
It was set on fire.
But yeah, so it was it was being used at the time as a Chinese restaurant and unsurprisingly as a hotel as well. But the hotel didn't have any guests,
Well, that's good.
and the fire was started in the middle of the night, so there was nobody eating at the restaurant. But like, I went there and had meals there quite a few times, and it was like really like lavishly decorated. Like they had these big sort of like, they weren't actually golden lions, but you know, they were just like wooden lions painted gold. Like all the architecture inside was just like, you know, they had lots of paintings like to really try and make it look like an authentic kind of Chinese building. Like they really went to great efforts to make it look like this kind of like almost kind of palatial kind of atmosphere. It was a really cool looking restaurant. But yeah,
so by the sounds of it, then the Phoenix did not rise from the ashes.
No, and that joke is made a lot of times. Is that the joke you wanted to?
That's the one joke that I've written for this whole thing. There,
well, you've
Matthew.
been beaten by journalists from the local Cambridgeshire media.
That's what happens when you're hungover and don't do the research. I apologise, but there we go.
But yeah, so this ended up being on the national news. This one because the flames were like, it was huge. Like it was just the building was absolutely.
Well, that's what you'd
destroyed
expect. You'd
by
expect
fire.
the flames to be huge on a Phoenix, though, wouldn't you? Big
Yeah.
flames.
Yeah,
and
I
then
suppose.
it was
a very appropriate arson attack.
Was it just loads of camera crews going, "We've never seen a building come back from being burnt down. Let's just watch."
Yeah,
and then going, hang on.
Stand-up comedians like furiously dialing their agents. Just go, I've got a joke.
Got a joke.
I don't know why they sound Mancunian. I got a joke. Got a joke. But where's Beach?
The pirate computer.
But the building was completely destroyed. The facade actually remains to this day, and they've tried to touch it up since because it's an important part of architecture. But yeah, the building behind it is just gone. Completely gone. Like it was quite a worry for a while because of that architecture from that time. All of those buildings are terraced, so there's a lot of buildings either side of it.
Terraced.
Terraced as well. I mean, you know, it
just sounded like you said terrorist a bit from where I'm sitting.
Terraced.
Yeah.
As in
all
they
buildings
have
at the time were terrorists. I was like,
yeah. It's not detached. It has adjoining buildings that
okay.
are other businesses and properties either side.
Okay.
Of it, and obviously they were then in danger as well if the Phoenix Hotel collapsed. So they had to do a sort of controlled demolition very carefully to stop that from happening. So that was a huge story at the time. And this
I can imagine.
Yeah, this was around the time when people started going, there's been a lot of fires recently. What is going on?
My pint's been disturbed an awful lot lately.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely gets worse for people trying to enjoy pints.
No.
I'll tell you that. But just a quick thing about the Phoenix Hotel. So just before, like an hour or so before the fire was started, I actually ran past the building because I can't remember.
I thought you said you weren't going to incriminate yourself today, Matthew.
Well, I didn't want to make I
lived in Wisbech up until 2000, up until the start of the fight. So there was all these fires, and then I left. And now you're like, no.
I mean,
before that fire, I was in the vicinity.
See, the thing is, I have a pretty good alibi for this. So the reason I was running past was because I had like a school concert or something. It was a concert for the school, and I was playing trumpet. And I can't remember why, but I think either I'd thought we needed to meet at a different place or I'd left my trumpet at the school. And the school is quite near to the school I went to is like basically just a bit back from the North Brink. So I'd go on the North Brink to then get to the place we were having this gig.
Okay.
And so I ran past with my trumpet in hand. And a couple of hours later, the building was engulfed in flames. So I did worry at the time. It's like, oh, am I going to be on the CCTV of, have you seen this boy? As I just leg it past the building, all smiles. And then, a few moments later, it's been burnt to a crisp. But like I said, I have a pretty good alibi in the fact that I am definitely registered as being playing at a venue on that day at the time the fire was started. Okay. So it definitely could not have been me because people know where I was.
Except you've given us several events in just your one alibi going, I'd either left my trumpet somewhere or we were meeting somewhere.
Well, no.
Come on, Matthew, where are your exact facts?
Well, I can't remember. Basically, either I or my trumpet was not in the place I was supposed to be, and I realised this and needed to get quickly to the place I was supposed to be. And I can't remember if I'd just simply gone to the wrong place and then gone, shit, and then legged it, or if I'd gone to the right place, realised I'd left my trumpet in the wrong place, and then had to leg it to get my trumpet and then come back. So I can't remember which of those two it was.
Did you see any suspicious characters hanging around?
Well, I was too busy running to try and not be late for this concert, so I didn't think about it. I mean, this is the thing. At the time, it very much did occur to me, just like, oh, did I see anyone around? I can't remember if there was anyone around. I mean, it was early evening, so it wouldn't have been beyond the bounds of reason to see people knocking about on the North Brink. So I don't think I'd have, if somebody was standing there with loads of matches going, I'd have probably remembered that. But, obviously because the Wisbech arsonists had never been caught, they weren't being quite that open about it. So I said it would get worse for people with pints. On the 7th of May, the Flower Pot Pub, which is on Elm Road in Wisbech. Now that's just off Churchill Road, which... I looked at you as if you go, oh yes,
and I nodded, going, yes, Churchill, my favourite road in Wisbech.
It's another main road into Wisbech. So there's several main roads that go in and out of Wisbech, basically north, south, east, and west. And Churchill Road is the one that goes east, I think.
And that's named after the insurance company.
To be honest, it might well be. I have absolutely no idea. I mean, I imagine it's probably named after the Prime Minister, but it probably was there before the Prime Minister was Prime Minister.
Matthew, shooting down my jokes. Pow, 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 pow.
Yeah. Yeah. It could have been named after the dog. I don't know.
Oh,
and I don't care. So it's a main road into Wisbech anyway. So the Flower Pot is in, it's just a bit back off the main road, but you'd be able to see it from the main road. It's also on
and it's got a good getaway link, basically.
Well, yes, yeah, that's kind of not quite what I was thinking, but that is also true. I hadn't really thought about it in those terms.
But we're here to solve mysteries, Matthew.
Well, yeah. I am thinking more in terms of it being something that would be quite visible. It's also on the parade route of the Rose Fair. Now, the Rose Fair is an annual kind of like town festival.
To make sure that the crops grow.
Well, I mean, you say that it is a bit Wicker Man kind of, it is a bit weird in that sense and a bit pagan. But yeah, they on the Rose Fair every year there's loads of floats, which is just the backs of lorries, and then they're decorated and for different community groups and things, and that sort of parades around the town and does a loop, and the route takes it past where the Flower Pot Pub is. So
and Nicolas Cage is there going, "How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned?"
Yes, now that was a good joke.
Thank you.
I mean, he's missed a trick if he's never done that. Nick Cage, if you're listening, get yourself down to Wisbech and have a look at our...
But only on the Rose Fair.
Yeah,
has to be on the Rose
only
Fair.
on the Rose Fair. Only on the Rose Fair. And I need to say that the Rose Fair is quite popular within the sort of Fenland area. So, it attracts quite a few people. I think it's quite popular with the Dutch as well. Well, I mean, there's quite a lot of similar growing conditions. So, like, tulips grow really well in Finland, and weed as well is actually, in fact, most of the weed they sell in the Netherlands is actually grown in Finland. Big old hemp factories in King's Lynn and Wisbech and the surrounding area.
So you're saying that the Wisbech arsonists like to blaze?
Well, I mean, I don't think we can rule anything out. I mean,
there we go.
If he wanted to, it's not exactly hard to find it in Wisbech. I mean, there are massive like hemp fields as well, just knocking about. Just drive past it and just go, that's a field of hemp.
So what you're saying is that the Fenlands is just a massive tinderbox, like that's.
Well, I wouldn't say it's a tinderbox. I'm just saying that there's a lot of weed there, and I imagine a lot of it goes missing. So if you want to get any, I imagine it's quite an easy place to get some. I can't speak to the quality of it though. But, well, I mean, it's the stuff they sell you in Holland, so it gets the job done, doesn't it? What am I talking about? I was talking about, the Rose Fair. That's how we got onto that, right, yeah. So the Rose Fair is quite a popular
Matthew,
event.
I keep making you go down little tangents. It's quite fun to...
No, it's good, I'm enjoying it. So the Rose Fair is quite a popular event. Mm-hmm. Brings a lot of tourism into the town, so a lot of people would see the Flower Pot Pub on the Rose Fair route, was the point I was trying to make. So on the 8th of May, there's another property on North Brink, a residential property, again, unnamed, where a fire is started and damage is done to another residential building on the North Brink of Wisbech. And then...
So in this case, was that the first residential building that had been set on fire?
No, it was the second. It was the second. Again, it was unoccupied.
Right. Okay.
So there were 2 properties on North Brink that were residential buildings.
Right. Both set on fire.
Yeah, but both set on fire, but they didn't have anyone living in them.
Good.
Because I
Is
imagine,
this the MO? Is this basically empty buildings that set on fire?
yes, yeah. So all of these buildings that have been burned by the Wisbech Arsonist have all been empty.
Okay.
There've been no people in there. Yeah, so that was on the 8th of May. Around the 10th of May, and I can't find when this happened because I've tried to look through reporting of it and can't find it, but I remember this happening. So you'll have to just sort of bear with me on this. I might have misremembered it. But around the 10th of May, right, yeah. So remember Peckover House?
Yes.
That I was talking
Peckover,
about before. Yeah. So that fire on the 8th of May, that started making the stewards of the property, because it's a National Trust property. There's a lot of antiques and valuable artworks and stuff in there, because obviously the family that owned it were rich and aristocratical, so they had a lot of quite valuable stuff. And the stewards in the house for all these things are put on display. They were kind of getting nervous, so they're actually getting sort of like training and directives to be like, if a fire's started, you carry out this thing, you carry out this thing. And they were basically doing drills to like remove all of the valuable stuff from Peckover House, because they were really worried that somebody was going to target it. And indeed, around the 10th of May, that's what happened. So a fire was started in the gardens of Peckover House.
That sounds like a weird place to start a fire.
Well, yeah. I mean, the thing is with the gardens of Peckover House, again, it's like it's a place you can go, and there's like a barn that's a coffee shop. I mean, to be fair, because of coronavirus, this might all shut down because there hasn't been anyone visiting or donating money. They can't really pay for the upkeep anymore. Yeah, so the National Trust might have to sell it, which is kind of sad.
Well, at least it's still there. So you just answered the question: did it burn down?
No. It didn't burn down. No. So the fire was.
But
So
they stopped selling flat whites for a while.
No. I don't think the fire was in the barn either. But I was just saying that as an example. That's part of the Peckover House property. So there's like the mansion house, then there's the barn, and then there's like outhouses, sheds, things like that around the gardens.
Okay.
Various places like wooden decking to sit on and stuff.
Various flammable locations in the garden.
Exactly, yeah. A lot of things you could easily set on fire and where the fire would spread. And so, yeah, around the 10th of May, this was set on fire. The reason I remember, my family were having a meal at an Indian restaurant that was not too, I think it was an Indian restaurant.
Matthew, again,
it was not
every
too far
single
away.
one of these anecdotes, I was in the vicinity and then all of a sudden, fire.
I know, this is the thing. Like, it is, but I mean, it's a very small town. So, like, I would have been in, like, I think with all of these, apart from the one in March, all of these fires, I was within a 2-mile radius at the time. So it's, you can't really rule anyone out.
Matthew was running.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure people will listen to this and think it was me, but it wasn't, and I can prove that I wasn't there.
You were in an Indian having a fiery takeaway.
Yeah, I can't remember if it was that specific restaurant. It's just the only one I can think of that's in the area.
Okay. Again, your alibis are a bit shaky.
My family were trying to leave, and then all the roads were blocked and stuff. We were like, "Oh, what's going on?" And so we walked down the road a bit, and then saw this huge kind of police commotion.
And you were there in the back of the car going, "How did that happen?"
Well, we weren't in the car because we couldn't go anywhere because like the roads were basically just shut. So we were just looking at this, and we could see smoke coming out of the gardens of Peckover House. And like fire crews rushing in to try and put it out. And people just, I guess now knowing that there were people who were instructed to like take things out, that's probably why there were so many people going in and out of the building, was they were just like trying to save all of the valuable stuff that was inside it.
So they managed to get all the pictures out and things like that?
Well, I mean, I don't know whether they did or not, but I mean, the thing is they didn't have to because the fire didn't spread to the house. So the police and the fire brigade managed to put the fire out.
Imagine if you've been drilling for that for weeks. You've been drilling for that. Stop, drop, and roll without Rembrandt. Get everything out. Got to get it all out. Got the picture of Peg Up, Mr. Peg Up. Peckover, yeah. Peckerwood. Dr. Peckerwood. Get the picture of Dr. Peckerwood down. Wrap it in bedding, get it out, and you've done that. It's taken you ages. You've risked life and limb only for like the fire to go nowhere near. You're like, man, we've been training for this for ever.
No, I mean, it was a good thing though, because I mean, it's not like the fire went out by itself. Like it was because of the fast response of the emergency services. It was put out by the emergency services. But I mean, that's because there'd been this huge spate of fires, and so it was quite alarming. So everyone was just on standby, waiting for another one to happen because this person hadn't been caught.
Did the fire brigade have a Dalmatian dog? I don't know. I don't know why it is.
I've never seen one.
Yeah,
but
fire services seem to have Dalmatian dogs. It seems to be their dog of choice. I don't know why.
Okay. I mean, they might well have done. I mean, interestingly, I'd forgotten, but I've just remembered the Flower Pot pub, which was the previous one to get burned down. It's basically opposite where the fire station is. So, I mean, that's fucking ballsy.
That's a ballsy move. Yeah.
Yeah, that's...
I reckon I can burn this premises down before you can leave the fire station, sir.
Yeah, they've just like they've gone in before and it's like got the pole and just like smeared it with peanut butter or something, like just to make it really sticky so they can't get down it.
No, honey, no.
Yeah, so after that attempted arson at Peckover House, it suddenly stopped for a while.
So what year are we in now?
This is still 2010.
2010.
So these fires all happened between the 27th of March 2010 and the 10th of May, or around the 10th of May 2010. Yeah, and they suddenly stopped until, like, there was then another one on the 9th of September, still 2010, and this was at the Blackfriars Arms, which is also on Churchill Road.
So
Remember
people
I
are
said
just,
that was
so,
one of the...
So this arsonist, or arsonists, they are specifically targeting places where you can get a beverage, whether it be a caffeinated beverage or an alcoholic beverage. This person's a monster.
It does seem that way. I mean, that was one of the things people in the town were saying at the time. It's like, why is he burning down our pubs?
Yeah.
But, I mean, the thing is, like, the Flower Pot was actually closed at the time. Like, it wasn't...
So that's more, how dare you stop me from getting pints? So.
Well, yeah, no, it wasn't... So it wasn't abandoned, but I think there was maybe like a change of ownership going on. It wasn't open to serve at the time. The Blackfriars Arms had been abandoned in 2007.
So what you're saying is that,
and it was just
so
like,
what you're saying is the arsons might well have been a disgruntled sort of like beer hopper who's like, how dare you close down all the pubs? If I want a beer and I want to go in my pub crawl, I don't know why I'm making him so posh, or he or she or they so posh. I would like a beverage, and if you do not serve me beverages, I will burn this place down to the ground.
Any theory is as good as any other because we just don't know. But the Blackfriars Arms is so that's on Churchill Road as well. It's near to the sort of the main roundabout in the centre of the town. So again, a lot of traffic goes through there. Like I said, it had been closed for 3 years at that point. The thing is, it was actually quite an unpopular building, so they were going to demolish it anyway because it was one of those sort of flat top pubs that we get a lot of in the north, but in the especially the town like Wisbech where there's a lot of Georgian architecture, it was this kind of just squat, quite ugly building.
Okay,
and so the town saw it as a bit of an eyesore.
So basically, the arsonist, this arson was in everyone's benefit. So he's just saving people money. That's what you're saying. He or she.
I suppose, yeah. I mean, it is right next to a hospital, so probably setting it on fire is not really the best idea. But.
No, I mean there are better ways to demolish things. Have you ever seen Fred Dibner demolishing?
Oh
stuff? Yeah, the steeplejack.
Fred Dibner.
Yeah.
Met
him once, lovely man. But the way he used to do it is obviously he used to like demolish things. He would like knock a load of bricks out, basically build a fire inside of it, and then just set fire to the whole chimney stack or whatever and just watch it fall down. Steeplejacking is a very old...
Well, yeah, that was kind of how he got his... Because he ended up becoming a sort of a TV personality for a little while, didn't he? And that was why, because it was like there was a documentary where it showed him actually doing that, just standing on the top of this tower, just like knocking bricks
down. And then,
Then people were just like, whoa, that's incredible. And then, because he was happy to chat about it, he then ended up being on all these kind of like, presenting all of these sort of...
lovely man as well. Yeah. I met him.
Mechanics kind of documentaries.
Well, he's all about stuff. He had that steam engine roller.
Oh yeah, that was.
I had a go on that.
Oh no way.
It was one of my earliest memories. I think I was about 5. I met Fred Dibner. He gave me a ride in his green steam engine where there's fire. Maybe it's Fred all along.
But I think he died before 2010, so I don't think it could have been. But
sadly, I think he did. But yes, there we go.
Yeah. Well, rest in peace, Fred. I had a bet against him coming up today.
There we go.
In 2010 there were 8 major arsons in and around the Wisbech area, and
By someone who may or may not have been inspired by Fred Diller.
but yeah, indeed, yeah. Only one of which was stopped before it did any damage, and that was the one at Peckover House. The rest, either quite a bit of damage or completely destroyed the properties that were targeted. So the town's mood at the time this was going on, and this is this bit of the podcast where we can get a primary source because I was there in the town, not at the scene of the fires, as we have established,
but suspiciously close by, without a solid like narrative of what was going on at the time. I either left my trumpet there, or it was close by, or I was meant to meet someone, but something was happening that was fine.
Yeah. So I was playing my trumpet, and the walls of the Phoenix Hotel, they just sort of rattled and they came crashing down.
What is it with you and your trumpet in this story? Like, your trumpet's like always present. Is it?
I was a
flamethrower? Is it a flamethrower trumpet? Like,
I was making a joke about it being like the walls of Jericho. But okay, my biblical references are lost on you.
No, it's not. I like that joke. Now that I'm just starting to explain it, I apologise.
Yeah, it wasn't very well delivered, I will admit. Yes, so as a primary, and this is one of the reasons I was quite excited to do a podcast about this, is because I don't think there's ever been a podcast or kind of documentary about the spate of fires, but I remember it being this huge thing in the town. It was definitely not an insignificant event because the whole town was on high alert. It was on national news. The police were searching far and wide to try and catch this person who kept starting fires. And, obviously it might not have been just the one person, because could have been just copycats or whatever. We'll get onto the theories in a little bit. But yeah, it was very alarming that properties were being set on fire.
Very alarming. Oh, come on, that's how droll. Oh, fire alarms.
Yeah, but I mean, it was quite scary. I can imagine. At the time, because it was just, the fact that a building is set on fire, okay, yeah, is a thing that happens. It's, a bit of a shock if you see a building that's, quite a landmark in your town engulfed by flames. The fact that there were so many all deliberately started and no one was caught, that was really bizarre and worrying. Constantine House, which was the first one to get burned down. Obviously, at that point, nobody's thinking about a serial arsonist because there's only been one. But that was a bit of a shock because it's quite a prominent building
when was
on
that
the main
burned
road.
Down?
So that was 27th of March, I think.
27th of March. Hang on.
You're going to Google it and have a look at the pictures. Well, I'll carry on.
I think that was in protest to Constantine the movie with Keanu Reeves, where Keanu Reeves is meant to be a blonde Liverpudlian exorcist, and instead of being a blonde middle-aged Liverpudlian exorcist, you got Keanu Reeves. And if I was someone who was inclined to arson, I might go, well, that was a rubbish movie, so I'm going to burn anything with the name Constantine down to the ground.
Maybe it was people protesting the renaming of Istanbul.
Yes. How dare they? Constantinople was definitely the best name for that city.
I mean, yeah, but, as I'm going to get onto incredibly shortly, it's in the same paragraph of my notes as I'm about to go through. There are a lot of racist people in Wisbech. So
yes, a lot of racist people, and also quite a
lot
big
of Romans.
international presence. So.
Yeah. Constantine House, prominent building on the main road. There was a lot of chatter in the town that homeless people slept there, that they were using that, and that was why it was burned down. Although that's actually untrue. Nobody was harmed in the fire, and there was nobody. The building was completely abandoned.
Did homeless people stay there though?
Probably at some points, but at the time in question, there was no homeless people were living there.
Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah, because that was a worry for. I mean, people in small towns go, bloody serves them right. It's the kind of thing. I mean, sadly there is a precedent for this in Wisbech. So, like I said, there's quite a lot of racism because in the 90s and 2000s there was basically when more countries were joining the EU, more people were coming over from countries like Lithuania, Poland,
and Turkey, where Turkey joined.
Turkey's never joined the EU. So
has it?
No. This is one of the main things about Brexit. It was like Boris was saying, Turkey will join the EU and that'll be bad. That never happened.
So this wasn't a dirty protest to say no no to Istanbul. No.
But Latvia, Lithuania, Poland are kind of the main three countries where you get that have migrants to Wisbech, but they're basically any EU country has some migrant population in Wisbech or the area because of the work on the land.
I don't understand why a population of townsfolk would begrudge people with better genes moving into the area. More handsome people moving into the area, no thanks.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's quite a surprising thing, but yeah, there is a lot of hatred for Eastern European people
from the fat people. Oh my God! Look at all these chiseled, beautiful people moving into the. How dare they?
Yeah. Well, it's irrational and unfounded. Like
that's not
really
irrational.
weird.
It's like, well, my partner's going to leave me for this beautiful, chiseled human being. You go for a run, fatty. Sorry, that's a.
Yeah. But anyway, there was a case, and the reason I want to bring this up is that there is bizarrely a moment of levity in the middle of this, although it's not going to sound like it at first, but bear with me. Okay. So there was a Lithuanian man called Mr. Kiergas. Now he was, I think he was homeless because he was sleeping in his van, and his van was set on fire. It was a hate crime, and he died. That's, these things do happen in Wisbech where they take a dislike to people who are not them and act like that. Now, the moment of levity that comes in this, and I realise after talking about a man being horrifically murdered, it doesn't sound like there would be one. And it's nothing to do with, obviously nothing about this is making that case any easier to talk about or deal with. This was just an unfortunate side effect of some idiot in the police who didn't know how to translate things. So because of the large migrant population, they had a lot of posters put up across the town trying to catch this person and talking about the murder. And one of those translations was into Spanish, which is a language that I speak pretty much fluently. So the first line of the poster was Mr. Kiergas, who was 35 years old, which in Spanish is Señor Kiergas, que tuve 35 años. However, the person writing the poster forgot to put the tilde, that's the little squiggly line on top of the N, which technically makes it a different letter. So it actually read Señor Kiergas, que tuve 35 años, which means Mr. Kiergas, who had 35 anuses. And you've never known an awkwardness like walking towards a building, looking at a murder poster, and then bursting out laughing. When other people who can't read, don't want to fucking read the other languages, just like, what is wrong with you? So
again, dear listener,
when somebody has been murdered, don't say they've got 35 anuses. Please check your spelling.
But also, I want to point out that, like, in all of these cases, Matthew, there's instances of you just behaving suspiciously regarding the fires.
I mean, it's like setting abandoned buildings on fire is one thing.
Yes.
Like murdering somebody,
It's
like
quite
burning
weird.
someone to death. Like, it's not just like shooting someone. Like, that's a horrible way to die. Like, that's a very different kind of crime. Like, if people think I've started, I mean, I haven't started fires, but if people come to that conclusion, then I can prove that I didn't do it. So. As woolly as you think my alibis are, I can prove I didn't start the fires. But
pot of humour is still funny, regardless of context. Pot of humour is funny.
I didn't come into the conclusion that I'm a pyromaniac.
No,
it's not. It's not something that I would go, oh, that's beyond the bounds of reason. Whereas coming to the conclusion that I'm a torturous murderer is like I think that's like I am not that.
Good.
But I'm offended that you would say so.
It's not that. I mean, I'm just saying that there's just three examples of you just acting suspiciously, which is in itself funny. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm not the only person who acted very suspiciously.
Mr. Kiergas, sadly.
Yes, Mr. Kiergas.
Mr. Kiergas, who had a name of a flammable substance.
Well, this thing about Mr. Kiergas that happened years before.
Right,
it's not related. I was just saying that there's a precedent for people
pyromaniacs and flames. Yeah.
Well, there's a precedent for people trying to kill or harm people by setting them on fire in Wisbech, especially others, like groups that are othered, like immigrants in this case, or homeless people. Like incredibly violent hate crimes do happen in Wisbech. So
sadly, that's the kind of thing that happens just in small towns. So small towns is just full of that kind of rubbish. People, they get drunk, they get bored. There's nothing to do other than walk around the fence. So yeah.
Well, yeah. So the reason I'm bringing that up is to say that these fires almost certainly weren't that because all of the buildings were unoccupied at the time they were set alight. Whether that was, like with Peckover House where it was just, it just wasn't open, but it would have been open the next day, or it was like the Flower Pot Pub or the Blackfriars, which were more permanently closed. There were nobody in these buildings. Now, obviously, fire can spread and hurt people in other buildings, but it's like, the arsonist's intention, it doesn't look like their intention was to hurt people. It was just to set fire to things.
Just to see the spectacle of flame.
Indeed. Anyway, as I said a moment ago, I'm not the only person who behaved suspiciously. At the time, there was, and I can't remember his name now. There was somebody I went to school with who made a bit of a tit of himself. So
Lighter Jim. We called him Lighter Jim.
well, we might as well have done. So there were a lot of Facebook groups set up to catch the arsonist. Or
I've read some of them. I've read some of them. Yeah.
I mean, it's classic small town stuff. Saying, we should find him and send him to Afghanistan, so he can, if he likes fires, he can go to Afghanistan. So bring our brave boys home and send us. I mean, it'd be funny if it turned out he was a vet, the Wisbech arsonist, and a bit like, send him back to Afghanistan. Yeah. Anyway, so a lot of Facebook. So the town was angry and scared. There were a lot of Facebook groups set up.
Yeah.
To try and find the arsonist, get people to pull their knowledge reports, suspicious activity, etc. One of the ones that came up, there was a guy I went to school with. It was just like, the group was just called the Wisbech Arsonist or something like that, and he said, I see you've made this group about me. Send. Funny joke. Turns out that group was made by the fire brigade, and he got questioned by the police after posting that. So he might as well have called himself Lighter Jim.
Yeah. So one of you. So he didn't do it. Then I guess he had alibis. No. Yeah. So he didn't. He was just being a prat. Tit of himself. Yeah. Oh, I see. You've made a poster. Yeah. Well. We're gonna have a discussion with you now. It wasn't me. Well, that's what the guy who did do it would say. Yeah. No. Yeah. What a bright spark he was.
Yay! Very good. Very good. Ooh. So after the attempted arson at Peckover House,
okay,
maybe the arsonist was driven underground because then there were no other major arsons and then until September.
And it's hard to set fires underground because there's not a lot of oxygen.
Yeah. So after the Blackfriars came, after the Blackfriars pub was set alight, the police came down like a ton of bricks. We're just surrounding the area, just going, right, this guy can't be back. We've got to stop this. And then there was a rumour that went around the town that the arsonist had moved to Southampton. I don't know why, because it's not like you need to get extradited from Southampton.
Where did that even? I want to know where that started. Of all the mysteries, where did that? Well, he's gone to Southampton. How do you know that?
I can't find out. Like I've did searches online to try and find out about that, but there was nothing. So I don't know where that rumour started.
Probably from the arsonist. I heard he went to Southampton. What? He went to Southampton? Yeah, he's gone to Southampton. He's over. He's not here anymore. He's gone. Oh, well, we'll send the police over that way. Excellent.
But yeah, I remember people saying it's like, they can't bring him back now because he's in a different police area. So it's still England.
Like jurisdictional thing isn't. Yeah, that's not really. It's not in the US where like state lines stop people. Oh, he's in another state. We can't get him. No, if he's in Southampton, you can still arrest him for crimes committed in
Wisbech. Yeah. Indeed, yeah. To the best of my knowledge, anyway. And now, bizarrely, my trumpet's coming back into this because my trumpet teacher actually had a theory about it. A man named Kevin Stewart, and I remember him saying to me, like a couple of days after one of the arsons, because obviously
was he the steward of the Phoenix or whatever?
No. His name was just. His last name was just Stewart.
Stewart.
Yeah. So Kevin Stewart, who was my trumpet teacher, because everyone was talking about it, he was saying, after a lesson, we were talking about a lot about Constantine House, which was the first one. He was saying, like, the thing is, like, as soon as you drive into Wisbech, it's like you can see that. He thought that was why the arsonist did it. It was just like, the arsonist wants the recognition for just like, I've done this thing and I couldn't be caught, because it's and the same idea with the Phoenix Hotel as well, and the listed buildings,
major landmarks,
and all of the main roads, like I was saying. Yeah, so we'll get into the theories now. So of the 8 fires in 2010, just to sort of recap, of the 8 fires, 5 destroyed properties. 5 of the fires were at listed buildings.
Okay.
5 of the buildings were not in use at the time. The other 3 were in use, but just weren't at that time, like Peckover House, the school, and what was the other one? Oh, the Phoenix Hotel, of course. It just, there was just nobody staying at the hotel. And I don't think the restaurant was open on that day. So, yeah, it was technically open, but there was nobody there.
Okay.
Is what I'm trying to say. So 7 of the fires were at easily visible landmarks. So the odd one out being the school there, because that was kind of tucked away a bit. But
it was significant to the locals because that's where they got their education.
Indeed, yeah. Westwood's, Tim Westwood's school.
It just hates hip hop. No more hip hop.
All 8 of the fires were in places that were empty at the time the fire was started, and they were all deliberately started. They were all proved to be arsons by the police and the fire brigade.
So-
There are a couple of people who have come into sort of question about this. So there were 2 boys who were 11 and 12 who were bailed by the police after being questioned about the Flower Pot pub. They weren't then charged or sentenced, so presumably there wasn't a case that the police could make against them. Now, that doesn't mean to say that they were innocent, but the police couldn't prove that they were guilty. And there's the same story for a man who was in his 30s who was bailed, but it doesn't say his name because that wouldn't be fair. You can't just report somebody to have done something when the police haven't proved that they've done it.
Oh.
So Jason Brammer.
Oh, there we go. Jason
Yes,
Brammer.
Jason Brammer. He was 36 and he was jailed for
36-year-old.
arson in 2012.
Yes.
So he'd committed something like 45 arsons.
No, it's possibly more than that. I've got down here that there were 83 deliberate fires.
83, blimey.
Within
In the Wisbech
within
area.
500 metres of Wellington Terrace and
Which is where he
Tisdale
lived.
Close, which is where he lived between February 2002 to December 2010. 83. So in the year after that, from July 2011 to February 2012, there were only 6. So like basically after he'd been caught for
apprehended.
various- apprehended. I feel really sorry for him though. Do you know why I feel very sorry for him?
Why do you feel sorry for him?
Because Jason Brammer, he in the papers they called him a pathological fire setter. So close, so close. If you get
Twisted fire starter.
twisted fire. It's like literally that's like if Keith Flint had written the
Did he use a flint?
he's
to
a
light
fire
fires?
setter, twisted fire. It just wouldn't have been the same, would it? You know.
I'm a fire setter,
setter.
pathological fire setter.
Oh, if you're Jason, you'd be like, no, come on, the one thing, just call me a twisted fire starter and I'll be happy. Like, no,
Yeah.
Sorry, pal.
So in the report of the courts, none of the fires attributed to the Wisbech arsonist were actually mentioned. So
Which is
he
curious.
wasn't accused or tried for any of those fires.
So
all the ones that he was
Wisbech-
tried and found guilty for were not those
yeah.
fires.
So Wisbech had a pathological fire setter.
Who was at large at the time these fires were
Yes,
being started.
But it was not, according to court records, the twisted fire starter that we're looking for.
Indeed. He's a pretty good suspect because he was starting fires at the time the Wisbech arsonist was doing his thing. So,
Or
but,
her
yeah.
thing or their thing.
Well, indeed. There's somebody else I want to mention, and
Okay.
that person is Nancy Wong,
Nancy Wong.
who was the owner of the Phoenix Hotel, and very suspiciously, a couple of days after the fire, left the country and has been uncontactable since, which has caused a bit of a headache for the local council because they need her permission to be able to make changes to the building because it's listed, and she won't get back to them. Now,
Where's Nancy Wong gone?
Nobody knows.
She's just so Nancy Wong
She's
just disappeared off the
Just
face of the earth.
just disappeared and nobody can find her, which is very, very suspicious. Now, the thing with the Phoenix Hotel was that there were a lot of rumours that it was going out of business.
Okay.
Now, as I said, there was nobody in the hotel that night. The restaurant wasn't serving anybody. The restaurant, I don't know if it was closed, if they were doing something in the kitchens or on that day, or if they were supposed to be serving, but there was nobody there. Thing is, its business was suffering, and
Why was it suffering?
I don't know. People just weren't going there anymore. I think maybe there'd been, I vaguely remember there being something about a food hygiene problem. So that might have been why. Maybe somebody got food poisoning from there, and then, small town, the word spreads and you can easily go out of business.
The word spreads like salmonella. And then you're like, no, no more food for me.
Indeed. So there was a theory that it might have been an insurance job, but the problem with that
So you're saying
is
that Miss Wong went wrong.
well, indeed,
And all
yeah.
the terrible jokes. I've got more to come, folks, trust me.
Yeah, but I mean, the only problem with that is that I don't know if there was ever an insurance payout on the property.
Maybe why she left, she's just like, sod this, and just going, you're not going to pay me.
Quite, yeah. If you'd just seen your business go up in flames, you'd just be like, well, fuck that, I'm out of here. And then, if you've got Wisbech police trying to get in touch with you saying, oh, can we do this to your building? You'd just be like, don't want to deal with
I'm done. It's painful memory. I've got new stuff going on. Please leave me alone.
So nobody really knows. So it could have been an insurance job. Now, I have a slight theory on this, because one of the questions I have about this is, why is there so little information about it? Because I remember it being a huge thing in the town at the time, and it's very difficult to find information about it, and very difficult to find any sort of reporting into the investigation since. And my feeling would be, because the town felt very unsafe, if the police had caught this person, they'd say something about it because they wanted people to be safe. If they, obviously, as the fires stopped and the mood died down, maybe it wouldn't be so much of people wanting to feel safe, but people were angry as well. People would want to know that justice had been done. So it makes very little sense that if the arsonist had been caught, that the police would keep quiet about it. But also, if the arsonist hasn't been caught, then why the police have essentially dropped it and not tried to do a push to find them, because it's the arsonist has done a lot of damage. And this would be one of the main reasons for catching them, is that they owe the council a lot of money for all the damage that the council has then had to repair to the town's iconic Georgian waterfront and old buildings that have been damaged or destroyed by the fires. They definitely have good reasons to try and find this person, and good reasons to say if they had them. So one of my theories is basically child involvement. Now, in reporting, you have to be very careful about reporting crimes and the names of people who are going through trials, who are accused and convicted of crimes. You have to be very careful on that. One thing you can basically never, ever do is to report the name of a child that's involved in a criminal trial. There's basically only a very few exceptions where you would do that, basically only if the child is a danger to other people or the child is in danger. So, for instance, if the child's gone missing and you're worried that they've committed crimes and they're being manipulated by an adult who might hurt them, then you'd release the names to try and get people to find them.
That reminds me of Jeremy Forrester, the teacher who took his one of his pupils, went on the run with one of his pupils, and literally while they were on the run, like the pupil's the name in question was just plastered everywhere. Her name was just everywhere. It's like, this gentleman has taken this person, blah, blah, blah. And then when the court trial started, when they basically arrested him, as soon as they got him and as soon as the girl was back home, her name just disappeared from everything. It's like, as soon as that, it's like her name just became anonymous again.
Yeah. And then the other side of the coin, you've got like the murder of James Bulger, because he was murdered by children. They were like 11, 12 kind of years old.
And it's a good example.
And it's just we know that what their names were, because I mean their names have been changed now to hide
several
their
times,
identity.
sadly.
Yeah, because they keep reoffending. But that was the thing; they were a clear and present danger to other people. So
but it's also screwed them up.
Quickly.
Having their names everywhere has completely screwed them up, because they're now two of the most hated people.
In
the country, even to this day. And so it's
that's a very good example as to why you don't do it. So if it had been somebody that was under 18 that had been, I think it would have to be under 16 actually, before I incriminate myself again, because I was 17.
Dun, dun, dun.
It wasn't me. I definitely haven't been charged with starting any fires. So
but hey, Wisbech, Wisbech Constabulary, he is living in Manchester, so come down, come up and find him.
I reached out to the Cambridgeshire Fire Service and the Cambridgeshire Police to see if they could help me with any information about this, just so I could do a thorough job and not misreport anything.
Have they ignored you?
Yeah, they've ignored me.
So
I gave them a month and a half.
So that's the second time that you and I have tried to sort of reach out to various people involved in these mysteries, and it's just no response.
Yeah, I mean they might well. I mean, with freedom of information requests and stuff like that, it can take a long time to get through. So I mean, they might well get back to me in a couple of months, but I wanted to do the episode, and if they get back to me and there's interesting stuff in it, then we can do a part two.
If I ever hear from the guy who I'm contacted about cicada, then yeah, same thing. We can just do cicada, Wisbech, arsonist, amalgamation, mashup. Yeah.
What if they're one and the same? The Wisbech arsonist is cicada 3301.
Oh,
and that's Chris Seavey. It was all Chris Seavey with his giant Frankside bottom head.
Giant Frankside bottom head.
It was
starting
me
fires.
along.
It was me starting fires and making puzzles. Whee!
I am a fire setter, pathological fire setter. Oh,
That's definitely something you get little Frank to sing. Yeah.
Indeed, yeah. But yeah, so if it was somebody under the age of 16 that was doing all of this, then that would be why there's very little information about it, because you can't really report on it.
You definitely go, oh, we've caught the person
even
responsible for all these
even
crimes.
then, because there is in media law there is something about I can't remember the exact term now, but it's something like jigsaw identification or something like that. There are very strict rules on what kind of information you can give about somebody. Because you don't want to identify somebody, you don't want somebody reading that article to be able to identify somebody who they could then make vulnerable.
Yeah, so it basically stands for the ability to identify someone by using two or more different pieces of information from two or more sources, especially when the person's identity is meant to be a secret for legal reasons. So yeah, basically,
exactly.
It's
So
right.
so yeah, the easiest thing to do is just to not report on it. If you're a journalist, because you can, even with the best intentions and the most careful editing of a news article, you can still fall foul of that, and that's
Because there are internet sleuths like you and I out there.
well, indeed, yeah. You'd get a very hefty fine and probably lose your job, and even if you didn't, you'd have to live with the fact that you might have ended up
Shot
putting
someone.
somebody in danger, and ended up somebody getting killed because of something you wrote, which. I know there's a lot of journalists who wouldn't give a tuppenny fuck about that, but
Me and you being Scooby-Doo enthusiasts, we do care about solving mysteries in the right way.
exactly, yeah. So that's one of my theories. I mean, there could be something about corruption within the police. I find it very suspicious that nobody was caught. There were so many fires, the whole town was on high alert, and there were police and fire services everywhere, and they never managed to get close to catching somebody for most of these fires.
Mm-hmm.
Even with the people who were bailed, they were never charged. So I find that
Except
a
for
bit odd.
Jason
Jason Brammer, but then he
was-
wasn't convicted for any of these fires.
Yeah,
is
but
what
he
I'm
was
saying.
imprisoned indefinitely, wasn't he? Because he was a twisted.
Like one person successfully managed to start a fire and destroy a building in Wisbech. So other like-minded people try to do the same thing. I think
people who like fire in Wisbech.
pyromaniacs. It's just, but I mean, this is the thing. I think I'm a little skeptical about that, because like if it was a different person for every fire and nobody was caught for any fire, that seems. I mean, the police in Wisbech aren't the best. Well, they didn't fucking bother to get back to me, did they? So
No.
fuck them.
Sir,
No,
I am
they
an
won't.
internet sleuth trying to come up with a solution to your situation.
For there to have been copycats and with different people for every fire, and for nobody to have been caught for them. I was going to talk about the legacy, but
No, talk about legacy.
I haven't written
Talk about
anything
legacy.
really very interesting here. Apart from there was in 2020 there was a £6,000 facelift for the Phoenix Hotel.
2020.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's an ongoing legal battle between the council,
Did
the mysterious Nancy Wong.
Did Nancy Wong return? Oh, you've done a facelift. Hello. Back again.
Oh, thanks for that. That was great. Yeah, no. So yeah, like I was saying, because the owner isn't in the country and they can't get in touch with they don't have permission to make changes to the buildings. They can't really do anything about it. There's an ongoing legal battle in the courts to try and see if there's anything that can be done about the building, because they don't just want to have this empty shell there.
Yeah, my parents did something similar. So when I grew up, this couple, they're a bit dodgy. They were involved in pyramid schemes because it was the 80s when I grew up, and pyramid schemes were all the rage. Pow, pow, pow. So these two people, like, basically they conned a lot of money out of the people in the neighborhood, and they just pissed off because that's what you do. You midnight flight, let's get out of it. Basically, since then, they've owned this property across the way, and it's just derelict. So it's one derelict, like, bungalow in quite a posh neighborhood, and you're like, well,
And they won't allow anyone to do anything.
you can't do anything, can you? Because it's a property that's owned by somebody, so you can't go, well, we're just gonna, you
Knock
can't
that down,
reappropriate that or knock it down or do it up and sell it on. You can't do that without permission of the owner. So yeah, it's a problem. That's why everything should be public ownership,
Indeed, yeah.
so that we can make it all look nice.
Well, I mean, the council have been making that particular building look nice. They just can't use the building for anything.
Yeah.
They've been able to put the facade up, so it could definitely be more of an eyesore. It does look a bit weird because it's obvious there isn't a building behind it. But the Arsonist returns. Then you may have looked into this more than I have, because I found one very interesting one.
Well, I mean, so when was that? 2019.
Yeah,
I've got one blaze that happened in 2016 as well. So 2 were arrested after a blaze on December the 7th at a disused garage. So that was in 2016. Again, I don't have much more information than that. And then in July 2020, there's an arson attack on a brick barn.
on a brick.
On a brick barn in Mouth Lane, Guy Hearn.
Guy Hearn.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a little bit outside. That's quite close to March, actually, where Tim Westwood's rap school was.
Yeah, there we go. So again, around that area.
Yeah.
Hate crimes against hip hop. There we go.
Guy Hearn has 2 points of interest. One is it has a bowling alley, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
And
the other is it doesn't have a barn anymore.
Okay, yeah. There's a third one then, which for a while there was this entrepreneur who was he was from a Turkish Cypriot family, so he's my nemesis.
Constantinople.
Yeah. Well, yeah. There's look up the Cypriot War. There's a bit of a thing between Greek Cypriots like myself and Turkish Cypriots.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have no ill will towards this guy at all, but their family, once they found out about my family, stopped talking to us. So
Wow.
they clearly don't feel quite the same way. But yeah, anyway, this businessman, he built Britain's biggest sex shop in Guy Hearn on the main road from Wisbech to Peterborough. But it
In
was,
the most random, useless place in the world, like a place that's so out of the way to be. Yeah. That's the biggest sex shop. That's where all the dildos are. Racks of dildos.
Yeah. But I mean, it was the stuff that was in there was. I mean, I never went in because it closed down before I became an adult.
Very
so I wasn't allowed to.
suspicious. I never went in, but the things that I saw in there.
But friends tell me, no. Apparently, it was all really cheap. So it was like a sex pound shop or pound sex shop or something like that.
That was what it was called.
that's what people referred to it as.
The pound sex shop.
That's not what his name was.
The pounding sex shop. Boo, boo, boo.
Hey,
Okay.
yeah. So it was,
Big rubber fist.
a very kind of classic
$7.99.
Wisbech thing. Big ideas, completely tasteless. Anyway, we got well off topic then.
No, we've not.
Let's
We're talking
go
about Wisbech. Wisbech had the cheapest and biggest sex shop in the country.
It wasn't in Wisbech, it was in Guy Hearn.
Well, I don't know where Guy Hearn is.
It's
geography.
It's a village to the west of Wisbech.
Okay, so it's in a. Why would you open a sex shop like that
In a village, yeah.
in a village?
Well, I mean, it's on the main road between Wisbech and Peterborough.
So a good dogging site? I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, it was near to where this guy lived. So he lived in like the next village along, like between.
So he just
Wisbech
stood there
and
one day.
Peterborough.
You know what this tiny little village needs?
a sex shop.
Massive sex shop.
Yeah, I don't fucking know. It was a stupid idea and it went out of business. So there you go.
You, Cynthia, you're a liar. You use my products all the time. Come on, I've seen you down the local swinging party. What are you doing? Keys in the bowl. She just opened a bowl shop. That's what you should have. Ceramic bowls for popcorn nights and everything else that happens in Guy Hearn and Wisbech. Wink. Yeah.
In Wisbech, it's fires. So if it opened like a match or
In
kerosene
my pants.
shop,
Ba-da-ba-da-bow.
if it opened a petrol station, they might have got a bit more. It would have been right next door to another petrol station. Actually, so that would have been a waste of time. But
We sell a lot of petrol here, but it's never in cars. It's always just put into tin cans. I
don't know, a kindling shop or something. I don't know. Did you get those? A matchstick makers. Anyway, so July 27th, 2019, Ely House. On Lynn Road, which is the road I grew up on.
Mm-hmm. Very
so that was, yeah. Like I said, I was living in Manchester and would have been working on that day in Manchester. So absolutely no way I could have done that.
Well, he says that, dear listener, but then when you think about it, it's time triggers and remote triggers with like maybe a USB stroke Wi-Fi signal
tell you
thing.
that? Why would I want to burn down grade 2? Like, if I was a pyromaniac, I want to see what I was doing.
Or maybe just the knowledge that even when I'm far away, I can still get you, Wisbech.
So anyway, the point is Ely House. So it's
Right, okay.
another grade 2 listed building. Apparently, it was the oldest building in Wisbech. This was gutted by fire, and now the location of it. So it's sort of on a corner. Lynn Road goes around a bend, and there's traffic lights at this corner, which is where Ely House is. So traffic going into Wisbech,
Right.
or going out of Wisbech towards Kings Lynn, you all have to stop at these traffic lights.
Right.
So you can fucking see that building if if you're there. It's very, very clear, very noticeable on that. So if you were sat there in traffic waiting for the traffic lights to change,
Okay.
you'd look around and you'd go, oh, there's a building that's been burned down. It is very, very much within the Wisbech Arsonists' MO. It's a grade 2 listed building. It was empty. Nobody lived there at the time. It was on a main road and it was easily visible. So the legend of the Wisbech Arsonist lives on. It's sort of become a bit of a Robin Hood kind of figure, because to the best of
He's not really
my
he's not
knowledge-
really like stealing from the rich and burning
No,
for the
no,
poor. Like,
not in that sense.
Are you
but more
cold?
of a,
I'll
but
build
more-
a fire
but
for
more-
you.
But more kind of like, it's just like, go on, mate. You tell the man, like, it's not actually hurt anyone, and it's this person. Oh, I think in Wisbech most people would probably be like, if you ask them, they'd be like, oh god, I hope that nutcase gets caught. But
well, yeah, because
there
he's
is there
burning
is
down all
kind of
the
like these
tourist attractions.
like with in the same way that people weirdly idolize serial killers and stuff like that. There's like a weird kind of cult. kind of
he's a bit
respect.
of a mystery, isn't he?
Yeah. Just a bit of
Sorry.
a cult kind of respect for this mystery arsonist.
Bit too enthusiastic for the robot pirate voice that you get around with. He is a bit of a mystery.
Yeah, so to the best of my knowledge and for all I was able to find out, nobody has ever been charged for these fires.
Jason
In Wisbech.
Brammer.
He's been charged for some fires. He hasn't been charged for these fires.
He's been released since then.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Well, I don't know if he's been released since then, but I think his jail term was 3 years. So if he didn't do anything else, then presumably, yeah. But
To go on and burn again.
well, it sounds like he probably would do, but
But we've got no
But
evidence of that. So Jason,
we've
you're probably
got no
fine.
evidence of that, and we've got no evidence to say that he started any of the fires that we've talked about in this episode. Thanks very much for
Listening this far.
I'll probably be doing the next one from a jail cell. Well, I get questioned by the police, but the next one will happen anyway. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Thanks very much, guys. Bye bye.
Bye for now.